natural science view, which says that the natural is this kind of Cartesian space. It's a very kind of abstract view. And that's the subjectivity of human beings can start to disturb that. And I'm saying something completely different. So there's a real multiplicity of perceptual fields of worlds, and that this also has something to do with technology. And the making. Understand technology in a very kind of broad way. Techne in Greek means to make. It's about making things. Okay, so then there's an incredible persistency about all of this. And my point about this, and I'm going to be talking about it in a series of lectures that we're starting soon, that the persistence and the obduracy has to do with that we're talking about has to do with the structure of places. And we can, in fact, start to get places which are very, very stable. It's places which stay there, and there's a structure of places that stay there. They don't change very, very, very easily. While we at the same time start to get functional changes in all of that. So there's a kind of different, as I say, a different kind of view of the city starting to emerge. And here, let's just talk about some of the consequences of all this. I'm proposing to you that space can be a container. We spoke about space as a container before, but I'm saying that space can be a container, but in a slightly different way. We're talking about the kinds of structures of places that we make in the city that can start to be voided by their present functions, can be appropriated by new functions, but the places themselves are relatively kind of stable. And so cities are able to change while their structure of places remains remarkably consistent. I've just written a paper which is a bit of a preparation for another paper with Patricia Sulis. Those of you who want to read versions of these papers, you can look up my site on Scribd. Okay, so a space can be a container, but what we're talking about is this kind of structure of places. You'll notice I'm using the word topolocational there. It's just a word I dreamed up. I only dreamed up two, so I hope that's not too many. Topolocational, and when I'm talking about all of these things, the point is moving towards what I did my poster on, which is topolocational modeling. So trying to understand what the structure of places is, and trying to use that as a means to model the city in more ways than one. To model it as making a kind of GIS model, for example, but also just as a way of thinking. It's a way of understanding or thinking the city. So places become organized and equipped in various ways. Public facilities and services, complementary relations with other places, for example, but also interfaces with global financial market. The places that can be taken over in different ways. They can be, there's nothing to, in principle, to stop spaces being appropriated by other kinds of uses. But they start to become equipped. The most important thing about them is a place is something where there's a certain equipment. And there's a certain, we have to start being quite specific when we talk about action in the city. Because places and the equipment that they contain are part of the action that we are part of. We're not just using equipment. The equipment and the use of it, what I'm saying is actually integral. And so this is also part of that phenomenological way of seeing things. And what is the relation of people to topolocational space? Situational, access to the equipment. Yeah? This is one of the ways where power comes in. Actually, access to the kind of equipment that I was speaking about in my paper was the interfaces that global financial traders use to access the global financial markets. There's strong security, for example, embedded in a way that you kind of can or cannot interface with the equipment available. There's a totally different kind of way that space affects us, and that is mobility. Because one of the things that we are doing all the time is moving ourselves. How much time is it? I can't read it. How much time do I have?
No time.
No time. I'm going to have to leave out the examples then. Yeah?
But you can continue if we don't mind, if you don't have any questions. Okay.
I'll just finish this and go very quickly now. So the mobility issue is something different to the equipment issue, let's say. I mean, there's a certain power in places in the way that they are equipped and the way that they are secured, the way that people have access to them. But there's another kind of power in the way that we move between places. We move to connect with these equipped places. And there's kind of another story, the story of the mobility. And then there's also those backward compatibility and support effects. We put all these things together, and we've got a nice bundle of stuff there for research. I'm not kind of proposing now any cut and dried answers, but we've got a nice bundle of stuff there for thinking about how cities change, thinking about how cities are used, thinking about the transitions between different city-states, say between the industrial model and the post-industrial model of the city, and thinking how backward compatibility is working in all of this. So it's a bit of a kind of methodological statement, if you like. And note that none of this supports thinking technology with a capital T. None of this is about thinking about technology or society, for that matter, with a capital T or a capital S. We're talking about very, very specific effects that emerge in different places that might be generalizable, but the question needs to be asked first: how is society produced in these kind of configurations or in these kinds of conditions? And what is technology doing in each particular case of technology? There's no one kind of way that technology works. Technology is a very diverse, very, very multiple field. Right? It's not one thing. This I argued against Manuel Castells in the footprint paper, and in my Lefebvre paper I was arguing against Marx's version of technology, also with a capital T. So it's a kind of ethnographics, if you like. It's a little bit like, those of you who know a little bit of sociology, it's a little bit like doing graphing on